KREB News' Katie Udis investigated all this. Joined us now live with this exclusive 2 On Your Side report.
Randy and Jane, patients of Providence Holy Family Hospital are caught in the middle of a battle between doctors and a major insurance company. The emergency room's physicians, who are independent of the hospital, are no longer contracted with Premera Blue Cross. Now customers are opening large unexpected bills after treatment at the ER.
And this is unbelievable.
Cindy Grobenstein opened her hospital bill and it made her heart flutter again.
It really took me off. I knew nothing about it. I worked as a nurse there for about 12 to 13 years, somewhere along there. I've never heard of this.
On October 15th, Cindy went to Providence Holy Family with chest pains.
We went to ER, where I've gone numerous times.
She was treated and released, only to receive a hefty bill in December. $824 she had to pay out of pocket. Her insurance, Premera Blue Cross, wouldn't pay the full amount of what the doctor had charged. That's because the ER doctors at Holy Family, who belong to a group called Emergency Physician Services, are no longer contracted with Premera. Negotiations broke down last summer when the physicians asked Premera for a rate increase. The insurance company released a statement saying the doctors charged more than they were willing to pay. Premera writes, the group requested a rate increase significantly above those of similar providers in our network. So the contract between the ER doctors and Premera was dissolved.
My idea is if hospitals contracted, then everybody in the hospital was contracted. But I found out that's not true.
Neither Premera nor the physicians group will say how much more the doctors asked for. But here's how Cindy's bill breaks down. Her ER examination and tests cost $1,332. Premera made a payment of $241 and an adjustment of $266, leaving Cindy's out-of-pocket cost at $824.
In the middle of my heart attack, I didn't think to call Premera. I'm sorry.
The doctors group declined to comment to KREM 2 News, citing ongoing negotiations. The president of the group, Dr. Lynn Brown, told the Journal of Business, "It was not that we want to fight anybody. We just have a small business to run." He said they were no longer able to absorb the cost of low reimbursements. Now patients are caught in the crossfire.
This is their war, not mine.
Other ERs in the region are still contracted with Premera. Deaconess Medical Center, Valley Hospital and Medical Center, and Providence Sacred Heart Medical Center. As of December 31st, Premera had 54,000 members in Spokane County.
People have their choice if they're just made aware of it. You know, they don't have to go to Holy Family.
The hospital released this statement saying, "We urge both organizations to continue their negotiations to resolve this contractual issue quickly in order to serve the best interests of the residents in North Spokane."
Your own health insurance.
In the meantime, the ER physicians will still take the Premera payment. But just like in Cindy's case, it may not cover your whole bill.
But I just feel like he took care of me, and then he turned around and he stuck it to me.
Premera tells me they mailed notifications of the contract change to people who lived near the hospital or had used the hospital over the last year. Cindy lives in Meade and says she never received notification. But after many calls, she says her bill has been dropped by both the physicians group and Premera. Reporting live, Katie Udis, KREM 2 News. Jane, navigating the healthcare world is confusing, and many are looking at medical bills they simply can't afford. So I spent the day talking with the Insurance Commissioner's Office, Holy Family, and the ER Physicians Group. Here's what I found out.
We went in just like we normally do. Have never had a problem before.
Stephanie Belknap went to the emergency room at Providence Holy Family Hospital on New Year's Eve. Like the many people who contacted KREM 2, she has a large bill from Emergency Physician Services, a bill her insurance used to fully cover.
I'm talking about the difference of $30 to $550. That's huge.
Then there's this bill from another viewer. It totals $997. Premera Blue Cross paid $195, made an adjustment of $199, leaving the total at $601 out of pocket. Premera tells us they notified customers the ER doctor's contract with the insurance company dissolved October 1st, saying, "Last September, we sent letters to our members who had a North Spokane zip code and lived within a 5-mile radius of Holy Family Hospital. In addition, we contacted members who lived outside of this radius who had visited the emergency room at Holy Family Hospital within the last 12 months. Belknap lives just under 3 miles from the hospital.
And we've definitely used them within the last year too. So we fell into a couple categories there and we didn't get anything.
We contacted the state's insurance commissioner's office. They say Premera notified them of the change and told them customers were receiving a letter.
The insurance company has to tell you 15 days before they're going to cancel a contract, and they have to do it in writing.
And customers won't get notification of change at the hospital.
Not aware, and that's what's most frustrating. There was no signage. The gal that came in and talked to us when she gathered our insurance information for billing, not a word.
Holy Family spokesman says that could be construed as financial coercion, and they have to treat everyone who comes in. The hospital and ER physicians group say they are required to do a medical screening in the ER before payment is discussed. It's federal law, known as the Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act. Now, people like Belknap
Furious, absolutely upset.
are concerned about paying hundreds in medical bills and want the issue resolved.
I've also planned to contact the insurance commissioner.
Which is exactly what you should do if you're in the same group as the people we've interviewed. Call the insurance commissioner. The number is on your screen. They'll let you know your rights and will investigate cases if necessary. Also, I'm told Premera and the ER physicians have reached a tentative agreement. They hope to have a formal agreement and announcement soon. Reporting live, Katie Udis, KREM 2 News.
Federal courthouse employees walked over sewage contaminated carpet for weeks. The spill of raw human waste exposed workers to both fecal coliforms and E. coli, along with a terrible smell.
The sewage spill happened back on April 16th, and KREM 2's Katie Udis found out some people call this cleanup response inadequate.
When the sewage contaminated carpet wasn't removed after repeated requests, a whistleblower contacted me. These documents outline a battle over the cleanup at the federal courthouse. It's a battle where almost everyone stepped in it. Lady Justice, a symbol of our court system, while often shown blindfolded, in this case, she may also want her nose covered. On April 16th, a plumbing backup inside a men's room in the Thomas S. Foley Federal Courthouse spewed raw sewage.
The clog resulted in some sewage spill down in the basement and in the subfloor of the basement.
This email is one of several obtained by KREM 2 News that details the spill. It's from Rose Environmental, a company specializing in safety and health. Sewage water reportedly sprayed to a height of 6 feet within the bathroom and flooded to a reported depth of 0.5 to 2 inches. Stephanie Knitzer works for the U.S. General Services Administration, the agency that runs government properties.
And over the next couple of weeks, we steam clean the area and clean the carpet.
The affected areas where judges, attorneys, and other courthouse employees enter from the garage below the courthouse. Court security officers, overseen by the U.S. Marshals Service, man the secured entrance. Video cameras are not allowed in the building. Pictures and documents were given to us by a source who requested anonymity for fear of retaliation. The shots were taken after the area was reportedly sanitized. And this map of the spill comes from emails about the cleanup effort. It shows the extent of the sewage contamination. Note the liquid under the stanchion located in the loading dock. Toilet paper and gray-colored residue cover the legs of court security screening machines, an X-ray, and magnetometer. Even more foul, drain water backed up into the basement-level wall-mounted drinking fountain. A brownish residue can be seen on the side vent of the fountain.
GSA believed the carpet had been adequately cleaned after 2 steam cleanings and by bringing in the professional company.
But health standards say cleaning is not enough. The carpet should have been removed immediately. This email from the Marshals Service shows the agency knew of the problem at least by the 26th of April. It says, highly absorbent sewage-saturated materials, such as carpet, must be contained and disposed of properly. There's simply too great a health risk involved if any of the materials are dried in place and cleaned only. But the carpet still wasn't removed, and the sewage stench lingered. People who work in the building continued to complain about the lack of response and seemingly inadequate cleanup. The same day as the Marshals Service email, Rose Environmental tested for E. coli and fecal coliforms. Both bacteria are found in raw sewage and potentially hazardous to human health. Those tests came back 4 days later on April 30th. The sub-basement men's locker carpet and tile positive for both fecal coliforms and E. coli. The basement carpet under the drinking fountain, positive for both. Also testing positive for both were the bottom of the magnetometer and the tiled flooring in the men's bathroom. The edges of the main carpet areas were negative. And what about the drinking fountain? It tested negative for fecal coliforms, but positive for E. coli on both the fountain surfaces and drain. On May 1st, a letter arrives from OSHA requesting the Marshals Service investigate the alleged conditions and make any necessary corrections. When we talked to the GSA 2 weeks later, they were finally taking action, but still didn't seem concerned about the health risk.
GSA worked with industrial health experts to determine if there were any concerns, and they determined there was minimal risk to any environmental exposure in the area. They did confirm that removing the carpets was the right thing to do, so that's what we're doing.
But they don't really know how bad the contamination was. Rose Environmental did not test the amount of bacteria, only whether or not it was present.
And they told us it wasn't an emergency situation.
For weeks, people walked on the contaminated carpet, going to offices and courtrooms, then back home to their families. Court security officers continued to man the security checkpoint, working in the rank conditions.
So we would thank them for their patience as we work through this process and let them know that we have taken all the corrective courses of action to take care of the problem.
The cleanup will cost around $13,000. The carpet finally removed.
And we will test the area again right after that to determine if it is clean and sanitized.
It's refreshing news for court employees who say they've held their breath that something would be done.
Gene and Randy, the Marshals Service declined my request for an interview, but they did respond to a couple questions via email, and this is what they said. The U.S. Marshals Service was unaware of the concerns about the initial cleanup until they were brought to our attention. GSA's response was appropriate and timely once the U.S. Marshals Service notified them of the need for a secondary cleanup. Now, the Marshal's Office didn't give me an exact date that they learned of the cleanup, but that was what they had to say. I'm told at this point the basement is almost complete with that cleaning.
All right, thank you. Great job. Thank you, Katie.
Randy and Jane, back in the fall, I filed a public records request to find out how the city is safeguarding city-owned property. We wanted to know what and how much stuff the city had lost, and I received this big list of stolen items a few weeks ago. You may be surprised to hear some of the large ticket items that I found have been stolen and equipment that is simply missing from city inventory.
I use this scanner to go ahead and scan any computers that have a T number on it, which means that it is property of the city.
Everything we do is with taxpayer dollars.
The city of Spokane is responsible for over $12 million in electronic equipment, not to mention vehicles and other gear. And it was all purchased with your tax money. From fax machines to computers at City Hall, we wanted to see how the city is safeguarding your investment. KREM 2 News filed a public records request for a list of all lost or stolen city-owned property from 2005 to present. City spokesperson Marlene Feist agreed to explain the results.
We want to hold our employees accountable for taking care of the equipment they're entrusted with.
In the last 7 years, $31,000 in equipment has been stolen. The first thing we noticed, mostly pricey laptops, like GoBooks, valued around $5,000 each.
Would you say that that many laptops in that span is an acceptable amount?
You know, I don't think for us that I don't think that we want anything stolen. I mean, I think the better number would be zero, but I think given the reality of the number of pieces of equipment that we have available and that are distributed among our many 2,000 employees, I do think that seems to be a reasonable number.
Feist's explanation.
Unfortunately, a laptop is a pretty movable piece of equipment.
She doesn't deny theft by employees, but says it doesn't happen often.
Certainly, we have had instances of employees who have taken things from the city, and we've had to deal with them through disciplinary actions.
She says equipment is usually taken while crews are in the field, like firefighter river rescue gear. The Spokane Fire Department says a similar bag worth $2,000 was stolen during a training exercise in 2010.
That's not a bad loss in the big picture.
Parks and Recreation can be a target for thieves as well. A club car was stolen from Underhill Park. The damages totaling $3,500, not to mention untold amounts of fuel theft from the city's parks and golf courses. So equipment gets stolen, but what about the equipment that's simply unaccounted for? There's currently $110,000 in inventory missing. computers, wireless routers, and even IBM servers.
And we will eventually track those down and where they got relocated to. But sometimes they end up in strange places.
The city tracks electronic equipment using a barcode system. Of the nearly 2,000 city employees, about 1,500 are assigned computers.
Every single piece of equipment would have a barcode. So
Vice says they've made improvements in keeping track of equipment, many of it's eventually accounted for.
Sometimes the transfer paperwork doesn't happen the way it should.
Our records request shows in a 7-year span, around $160,000 worth of computer equipment went missing, then was later found.
And in the last 18 months, I'm told, we made some really significant changes in how we're tracking equipment.
They're scanning more regularly, and all new equipment is locked up until it's inventoried and assigned.
If you were to letter grade the city of Spokane on keeping track of equipment, what would you give?
You know, I think we are, a solid B+.
Because ultimately, they're protecting your investment, even this tired AM/FM radio.
you know, we're still tracking this piece of equipment in its dusty old self.
We're still waiting on our records request from the police department and should hear back by mid-March. We also looked into cities about the size of Spokane to see how we compare. City officials in Madison, Wisconsin told me they don't track equipment the way Spokane does, and Tacoma has not fulfilled our records request yet. Reporting live, Katie Udis, KREM 2 News.
I mean, any taxpayer should be mad about this.
John asked that we hide his identity because he has family members who work for the jail. He says inmates constantly use welfare dollars to bail out.
So we found out that they were actually using these cards when they were booked into county jail. They would sign them out to their bail bondsman, give them a PIN. These people walk to an ATM, get the bail money, and use that money to bail these people out of jail. And I thought it was just unreal.
But it is real. Here's how it works. At the county jail, inmates are booked and their personal property is stored. They can request items be picked up by filling out an inmate property release form.
We'll process the form.
Captain John McGrath says his staff noticed bondsmen picking up EBT Quest cards.
Bail bondsmen come in every day, sometimes and all day. They'll come in 24/7 to bond somebody out.
It's frustrating, but there's nothing they can do about it.
It doesn't matter what the request is for to be released. Whatever item they want to release, it's their right to release it. So we're just doing our job.
So imagine I'm the bail bondsman, a family member, or even a friend. I just show up at the cashier window and ask for the property, open it up, inside, keys, cell phone, and even the Quest card. The EBT Quest card doesn't have to travel far. Within several blocks of the jail are plenty of bail bond offices where that bond can be processed. We spoke with several local bail bondsmen. They all denied taking EBT cards for bond. But they can't trace cash. An EBT card can be used to pull cash at almost any ATM. The average monthly allowance is around $450.
There's zero regulations on it right now, and no one's going in and looking at these people's transactions, what they're using them for.
John says cards are handed off daily. A Department of Social and Health Services representative told me she's never heard of people purchasing bail bonds with EBT cards. But it is happening, and right now the only use prohibited by state regulation is gambling.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked. And as a taxpayer, I think there should be some restrictions on what these people are using those funds for.